I'm Mariel Hemingway with my partner Melissa Yamaguchi on the Outcomes the Sun podcast. Number 3, I think we're at. Are we at 3 or 4?
Number 25 or something like that. Who knows?
Something like that. Anyway, we don't care. So today we wanted to do another kind of deep dive just together, talking about the 7 doctors because, and I'll explain what that means, because Bobby, my significant other, and I, and Melissa, with tremendous help from Melissa, just filmed a course with one commune about the 7 doctors. And it's really a course about lifestyle, how to do simple things in your life to really create change, body, mind, and spirit. It's not just physical change, but you want mental change, you want spiritual change, and change meaning you want to live a longer, healthier, happy, and more balanced life. So let me explain, and then I'm going to let Melissa go into some cool things that she's researched on the subject. But let me explain what the 7 doctors are. So the 7 doctors are Dr. Sun, Dr. Air, Dr. Water, Dr. Exercise, Dr. Rest, and Dr. Earth, and Dr. Sleep?
Nutrition.
No, I said nutrition. Jeez, that's crazy. Anyway, how could I forget nutrition? It really should be rest at the end, like the 7th day of rest. But anyway, those are the seven doctors, and we really believe that these simple things are so powerful in creating a balanced life, a healthy, balanced life, right? So Dr. Sun is obviously getting sun, watching sunrises and sunsets, getting vitamin D into your eyes. You absorb more vitamin D through the eyes than anything else. And you don't want to do that, in the middle of the day. You want to do it at the beginning of the day. From sunrise for about till about 10 o'clock is about the safest, best time to receive sun. There's such a misnomer about sun. Like, people are like, oh, I don't get sun. I can't get sun on my face. I'm going to put all this chemical stuff on my face, when the truth is we need it. Light is everything. And talk about people that suffer from SAD, seasonal affective disorder. They need sunlight. They need sun. They need light. I mean, there are these lights that you can use, and trust me, I used them in Idaho this last winter when it was super dark. So there are other ways to get sun, get light in your eyes and in your face. So Dr. Sun, Dr. Air is about breath, learning how to breathe. Most people on this planet, it's amazing because we have to breathe, but nobody knows really how to breathe, right? They're breathing from their neck up, very shallow breathing. They're not going deep into their, into their belly, into their, and getting oxygen, oxygenating the lungs, everything else. So Dr. Air, we learn how to breathe. That also creates balance in the brain. Like, you'd be amazed when you don't know how to breathe. There is a shallowness to thinking. Depression is more. If you learn how to breathe, and nasal breathe, that's also important. So Dr. Air, Dr. Sun, Dr. Air, Dr. Water, drinking water, getting connected to water. We are made up of anywhere from 60% if you're dehydrated to 90% if you're a tiny baby. But really, as an adult, male or female, you should be at 75% water. And that only happens if you're ingesting water that is getting absorbed into the tissues and into the cells and into the brain, right? You need lubrication in all of that. Dr. Air, Dr. Sun, Dr. Air, Dr. Water, Dr. Exercise, movement. Yeah. Okay. I'll go to nutrition. I promise.
No, go ahead. You're good. Good. I was going to say earth, but go ahead. Exercise. Good.
Yeah. Exercise is so incredibly important. Bobby and I work with a doctor, Dr. Bruce Johnson from the Mayo Clinic, who's the head of extreme human performance and cardio and pulmonary, study. And he says really that exercise is the fountain of youth. So it's not about like, I need to go become a CrossFit athlete. It's about, do you get out at least 3 days a week, at least, but really, hopefully 6 days a week, you go out for a nice brisk walk, something, a walk, you swim. And if you don't like any of those things, you dance. I don't care. Move your body. Movement is so powerful and profound. And it creates longevity, and it also helps the brain. I mean, there have been many a time where I have been depressed or sad or anxious, and literally walking around the block will change how I'm thinking. So there's exercise, there's nutrition. I mean, we are we eat, right? What you put in your body, really, we are an expression of that goes into the organs, into the brain. So when I always say, you think about taking an aspirin, right? And in 20 minutes, you're going to have no headache, right? Say you have a headache and you take this Advil or you take a Tylenol or whatever you take, and then you don't have a headache. We need to start thinking of our food as the same. Food is medicine, right? So look at your food not in a medicinal way, like sadly, but in a way that it is enhancing your health. So eat good food. And I'm not saying you have to be vegan or vegetarian or this or that or anything. Just eat real food. And that can be, you can be any type of eater that you want, paleo, vegan, all protein, no protein, keto, whatever thing works for you. And it's about finding that. And then there's Dr. Earth. Dr. Earth is so important, and people kind of forget this, and we're big proponents of it. I know Melissa and I, walking barefoot on the earth, that's a way to connect with the electromagnetic field of the earth that comes up through your feet. So I walk barefoot a lot, not so much in the snow in Idaho.
But you do hike barefoot. You hike
I do.
Barefoot.
Oh, absolutely, I do.
You
Sorry,
throw your earpods off barefoot.
I am. Look, I am barefoot. I am barefoot right now. I'm so excited. We're in California, and I was barefoot hiking all over the place. Anyway, the electromagnetic field comes into the body through the feet, or however you're grounding. If you're sitting on a in a park on the ground, you get the electromagnetic field comes in through your feet or your body. And what that does is profound. It gets rid of the inflammation in your body. It also gets rid of the inflammation in your brain. It gets rid of neuroinflammation. What does that mean? That means that people that suffer from depression and anxiety and all of these things, it helps alleviate that. I'm not saying it's, the perfect cure for somebody who has a serious mental illness, but it certainly can help, right? We need to see our everyday habits as ways of helping our mental health. You might need more help. You might need a psychiatrist. You might need, pharmaceuticals to help you get past something, but we need to take responsibility of our lifestyle to help these things work so that you can take less drugs or, whatever it is. So then there's nutrition. There's earth, there's nutrition, and
rest.
What else?
Your last one's rest, yeah.
Rest. Sleep. Oh my God. So it was very funny. When I first met Bobby 14 years ago, I was like, I get like 6 hours of sleep. I'm so cool because I meditate, right? And he was like, well, that's horrible. I was like, what do you mean that's horrible? And he was like, you need to sleep more. And I was like, why? You're always napping. I don't understand it. But meanwhile, I'm looking at him and was like, damn, he looks young. And he was always super, happy, very balanced. Sleep, they are finding the studies around sleep and how important it is for our mental health, for our metabolism, for everything, for anti-aging. Sleep is so important. Of course, as we get older, our anxiety levels are higher and sleep becomes really challenging. It becomes a challenge. So you have to look at natural ways to create better sleep. So I have said the 7 doctors. Now I'm going to throw it over to you, Melissa, who will explain some of the cool things that are happening in science. And I apologize for the plane above me, in science these days that are life-changing and really confirming that these 7 doctors are really profound.
Well, yeah, and it's fascinating because in this dive that I was doing, not only for the work on One Commune, but the work that I had been working on over the summer that you're aware of, um, I started finding out that there's different locations around the world where scientists are dedicating themselves to understanding longevity, mental, emotional, and physical health and well-being, and what is it that makes a super ager, someone who lives healthily over the age of 100 with the same cognitive skills over age 100 as someone in his or her 60s, or a world class athlete or Olympic athlete. What allows them to be who they are?
Right.
And one of the places that I found was this place called the Chenot Spa on Lake Lucerne in Switzerland, which I really think the next time, instead of reading about it, you and I should probably go and just partake. And
Yes,
only then
please.
could our voice be trusted.
Yes.
But I want to tell you that science is the root of all that they do. But I want to read off some of these studies that they do and how it feeds back into the seven doctors. I found it fascinating. They do
Amazing.
heavy metal and mineral tests to find out just how laden our systems are with it, not only by environment but by what we're ingesting, and also how our body's responding to lack of air, sleep, earth, nutrition, exercise. Right? They do a lung test for capacity to find out just how heavily you're breathing, which goes back to Dr. Air. So a lot of the participants were saying, "Oh no, I can breathe beautifully. I can hike and no problem." They said, "But your breathing is so shallow. You're not taking it into your belly like a like a belly breathe like babies do." And so another thing they study is your posture and your movement. And they watch you walk, they watch how you sit, they watch how you hold your head, they watch when you speak, how you move your jaw. This entire thing on how you are, it's like taking your car in for a tune up. How's this thing moving? And how much longer will it be able to move and travel the way it's moving today? They also study your vascular and artery functions, your bone density. They do biofeedback for your parasympathetic levels to see how well you de stress, which a lot of people said that one of the prescriptions they got on the way out the door was you need to meditate more in a beautiful environment, because some people they thought they were de-stressing by turning on classical music, drinking a glass of wine, and cooking. And they said that's not de-stressing your body at all. Earthing would certainly be a great de-stressor, and they do body composition analysis. Now, in addition to this spot of Switzerland, a good friend of yours, at a Harvard graduate and scholar, Dr. Rudy Tanzi, is one of the leading authorities on studying, obviously, traumatic brain injury, but also his study of the brain as it relates to Alzheimer's and what's happening. He had some interesting things that he shared that I'd love to share with our audience, because I know you know this stuff already, Mariel. But that he said the biggest mistake that he thinks we're making in studying longevity of the brain is that we study what went wrong. What happened? Why did these people get this? How did someone with a seemingly healthy lifestyle get Alzheimer's, or have mental health issues, or have cancer? How does that make sense? So he said instead of us studying it that way, he's reversing it and studying the super agers to understand what they're doing to live that long. So he said that how our bodies metabolize determines how the brain ages, which is that whole microbiome study that you've been
Absolutely.
talking to me about, right?
Yeah, and the microbiome, if people don't realize, this is the second brain. Your gut,
That's your second brain, right?
that's your second brain. So that has to be in concert, in
Yep.
healthy. And when that's not healthy, the brain's not
Yes.
healthy because they're talking to each other all the time, right? Yes.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
It's fascinating. And he said he's studying the super agers, the people who live over the age of 100, who still have the cognitive skills of people at the latest in their 60s, but some as early as 40s and 50s. These people well over 100, 105, 106, who are still clear as a bell. And so
Right.
what he's discovering with this all relates back to the seven doctors. They move what they eat, they watch what they eat, they're very particular about what they put in their body. I recently read an article about a lady who is 102 out of Okinawa, the blue zone, Okinawa,
Yeah, yeah,
Japan,
yeah.
and she's sitting in a chair holding her great 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 granddaughter who's 1 years old. And the interviewer said, "How does it feel to be holding your great great granddaughter that you're 101 years older?" and then you're and she said it feels like a slice of heaven. And they followed her around for 2 weeks to discover what she ate and what she did. And they everything that we're talking about with the seven doctors. She gets up in the morning, she goes out and tends her garden. Well, there she's getting earthing and the sun. She does her tai chi in the garden. Once she's finished tending to it, there's her movement.
Movement.
She drinks her what is it,
Matcha.
the
Yeah.
purple yam, that purple potato, that
Yeah.
purple yam that they and bittersweet melon, and her
Yeah.
fermented, her kimchi and her green tea. Everything's super super clean.
Yeah.
And she
And
has a
then
and
and the
she
kimchi, which is feeding the microbiome, like people need to know, like when you eat
yes,
fermented foods, that is healing your gut. Go ahead. Sorry.
beautiful.
So
It's
good.
perfect. Well, you and
Yeah.
Bobby really turned me on to sauerkraut. I mean, the
Yeah.
good sauerkraut, not the kind that I used to have in the cafeteria in fifth grade with the hot dogs on Wednesdays. Mrs. Clapp, those weren't good. That
No,
wasn't
that's
good.
not good.
So,
No.
so when you're eating properly, and the other thing that they do have, which we're going to have to get an eighth doctor, it's community. It's their
Yes.
connection to others, because these
Yes.
women in Okinawa have what it's a they have this community of other women close to their age, anywhere from the young sprite ones of 80 to the ones in well into their hundreds, and they check in on one another. They live within
Yes.
walking distance. They see how we're doing. Mary, we're already going to have a little circular home with a garden in the middle when we're
I
older, so
know.
we can go check on each other. But
Absolutely.
so this whole thing, this whole study of this that Dr. Tansey is spearheading and continues to. I kept every time I was reading it, I kept thinking, God, this is the seven doctors. Now, there's one thing that's not on the seven doctors that I'm not advocating for, but I found fascinating. And with your permission, it's a tender subject, but I would like to share it. There's a company that studies. It's called Fit Biomics, and they study the microbiome. And they've been doing research on bacterial strain within the microbiome of the healthiest athletes around the world. These world class athletes, Olympic athletes, who come from generational. Dad was a skier. Grandma was a skier. This person's a world class skier. Whatever they're doing, they've studied their feces, and what they're doing is they've taken bacterial strain from the feces of these world class athletes, and they're doing a transplant, if you will, into
The gut of somebody
a,
else.
a cross
Yeah.
section of people, older and sedentary, young and sedentary,
Yeah.
older and active, younger, and whatever. They're trying to see the effects. And every single one of them, not knowing what was transplanted in them, because that would alter. It's like if you
Yeah.
don't know you're
Right.
eating escargot, you can eat escargot, but you don't know you're eating snails. It's totally different, right? So when they did a research on them and asked for feedback, every one of them gave one glowing report in one area of the seven doctors. I slept better. I digested my food better. I had more energy to exercise.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, there's something to
100%.
be, it,
Oh,
it's fascinating.
100%. It is fascinating because I mean, it just makes sense. That just shows you that the gut is such a it's such a precursor to what your brain is doing and how you're expressing yourself in life. So it just shows that we have to pay attention to these things. They're also doing it with mental health. They're doing
Yes.
it with people that are, super energetic, happy all the time, whatever,
Yep.
and they're doing a transplant of that bacteria into a person who suffers from tremendous anxiety and depression. And they're seeing very positive results. I mean, I don't know, I'll probably murder it if I try to go into it because I don't know the exact, like numbers, but it's pretty astonishing, but it makes so much sense because we are this combination of physical, mental, this conglomerate, and then the environment. And like you said, and you brought up such an important point, and it's actually one of the things that Bobby and I talked about in these seven doctors. It's not just the seven doctors, and probably the eighth and ninth doctor is community, is relationship. The
Yes.
relationship that you have with yourself, the
Yep.
relationship you have with your significant other, your children, your friends, and then the community. And then, because Bobby and I like to say, you take the I out of illness, add we, and you create wellness. And wellness is a community thing. So when you get well, it's not, you don't have to do it by yourself. And especially when you're
No.
talking about mental health. Mental health, people are so they feel so isolated. COVID happened. Oh my God, should I leave? You still see, I still go to the
Yep.
store and I see people afraid and masked up and whatever. God bless them. But they're still feeling that isolation. They're still feeling the anxiety of being alone, right? And
Yep.
the kids are still suffering. The kids are still hesitant to go back to big classes where they're around a lot of kids. So we need to realize that our mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health, like we talked
Yes.
about last week, is all about this community. It's about coming together and saying, hey, nobody has to do this alone. This is all about the journey. Yes, your unique solution is yours alone,
That's
but
right.
together we can find it, right? Together we can help people be directed. And that's what we want to do with the Mariel Hemingway Foundation, mhfoundation.org. We want to help people find their solution. What is it? What is it makes you just feel that sense of community and know that you can reach out? Because that's what is scary to me, especially when I just look at kids. I just get
Yep.
so sad and scared about these kids who when I was a kid, people were not taking their life as kids. I mean, I didn't know anybody that took their life. There was an accidental death with a gun because I grew up in a place where people hunted, but somebody was
Yeah.
like cleaning a gun and the rifle went off and shot their brother. I mean, like horrible. But nobody took their life. But now it seems, what's so interesting about the world we live in now, it's like an option. It was never an option. We didn't think about those things. And Bobby always says, the epidemic back in the 60s and 70s, or the 70s anyway, 70s, 80s, was, teenage pregnancy. I did a movie back about a million years ago called "I Want to Keep My Baby." I had a pregnancy, at 16 years old or whatever. I did this movie, but I'm telling you, that was the epidemic. Now it's like, what? Your friends are so depressed or so anxious or so whatever.
It's a severe isolation, and don't you think we've talked about this? Don't you think that this has a lot to do with it? You're down here all day. It's easy to be cutting and cruel and say and communicate behind it. The rules of engagement are so different than when you and I were kids. There are unspoken rules now with the youth on how they communicate with one another. If you text a potential person you're interested in, if that person responds too quickly, that's not cool. They have to wait 2 days. And then once they wait 2 days, once they respond, you can't open their text or their Snapchat or whatever for at least 5 minutes. And then you can't respond after you've read it for another 2 hours. I mean, it's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. It's almost as though these parameters have
Damn, I
been
didn't
set
know
in
these rules.
place. Well, thank
Wow.
God. There's all these parameters that are so unhealthy that are set in place that are not natural. It's not
No.
natural. When you're excited, you want
No.
to go, "Oh my gosh," and you want to text back or call or something or go knock on the door. But because all these weird unspoken rules, who knows who's putting them in place, but they're out there and they're real. And I've spoken to several parents whose kids say,
Really?
who are teenage children, college age children, and they say, "Yeah, this is a deal. This is a real thing." And if someone, when you and I were younger, if someone liked you, they'd call your house, and someone in the house, a sister or a brother, your parent would go, "Stop calling. It's after 8. She's going to bed." And then they would never call you back. And if you were 16 and cool and had a phone in your room or something,
Yeah.
then they would call on your phone. But if you lived in my
Right.
house, my dad would unplug my princess phone and walk the phone and the cord out of my room so that I never got to have the phone in my room. Anyway,
Yeah.
but it's this weird boundless access. But
Yes.
because this is where a lot of our youth are growing up without, there's some restrictions and regulations are scary on some way. On some way, they're good, but there's no parental restrictions coming in really hard. So these kids are figuring it out for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of these numbers, the ideation and the actual happenings are taking place because there's no one. What's that was that a book? Forgive my ignorance right now. Was it a book? Was it a play? Who's watching the kids? You remember that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't remember. I feel like it
Yeah,
was a play, but or it was probably a book first. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It and the cell phone, as great as it is causing a tremendous amount of, we think we're communicating more. Let me tell you something. It's a 7% connection. When you
yeah,
text somebody, you're not, you can't. So even though we're doing this via the internet, at least I can see your face. I can see
yeah.
your body language. We're communicating through this, through, I can see you, right? But
Hmm.
when you are texting with somebody, you don't know what they're saying. It's always misinterpreted. It's always this,
Oh
it's
yeah,
always that. And, these rules I didn't even know about. That's crazy. And when I was a kid, if somebody did call you, and you weren't there, or you weren't there, you called them back the next day, or
yeah,
you made a plan. Hey, I'm calling you up, can you spend the night on Friday? It's Monday, right? Can you spend
yeah,
the night on Friday? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that'd be great, right? And so you don't see them till Friday, right? You're not like on this, having this interaction, and that judgment of time, like, oh, they didn't get back to me right away, or oh, they went too long. I don't know what these rules are, or whatever. It's really not okay. I would so
mm.
fail at this new disease.
I would feel too. I'm too excited. I get too excited about things, and I want to call and
What?
tell you right away what happened. I don't want to wait
I
until
know.
2 hours. If
I
you say,
know.
"Hey, this is my good news," and I've got to go, I
I'm
got
not
another
getting back to
55
you.
minutes, so she doesn't know I'm too excited. I can you imagine. I'd lose my mind. But
I know, right? But it's a different world. I mean, it's not a world that's going to change. So
no,
we have to learn how to negotiate the new way, right? I don't want to be the old person that goes, well, back in my day. But we have to learn how to negotiate
yeah,
the way the
yeah, we
world is
do.
so technically oriented, but keep it, you have to make limits. I think what it is you just say, for me, I turn my phone off at 8 p.m. It's off. I'm not going to say that the internet might not be, I might watch a show. That's different. But I quit, like looking at Instagram or doing anything
Yeah.
like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
8 p.m. The phone is off. Now, some of you have kids, some of you, like I know you keep your phone because your kids are off, in college or in Europe or wherever. So I get that. But for the most part, if you can turn your phone off, it's awesome for you. Not just because of that communication thing and the ability that anybody can get you, but also because of the EMFs, the electric
Right,
and magnetic stuff that
right.
is going around in the air. That's actually not good for you. It's not good for our circadian rhythm. It actually throws it off. So it's very important that internet and stuff like that gets lessened at the night, because that's part of sleeping well. If you turn internet off, or at least turn your phone off, and it shouldn't be next to your head. So many people like sleep with the phone right next to them.
Underneath their pillow.
Oh my God. It just
Right
kills
underneath the
me.
pillow.
It's so bad for you. Please don't do it. It so screws up your sleep. And if you're,
Mariel, here's another thing. If we can just talk
yeah,
about it briefly. Do you know how many girls I see put their phones in their bras?
it makes me nervous. It makes me so nervous. I
No, there's a
know.
direct connection here. It's scary stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
scary
it's
stuff.
scary stuff. And if you're pregnant, let me just tell you, if you're pregnant and you've got that kind of, it actually affects the fetus circadian rhythm, so that it's affect they are, there's a soft link. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not trying to claim anything, and the numbers I'm probably going to get wrong, but there is a connection to autism, and that the constant EMFs coming in at the baby, and blue light. Not that blue light is bad all the time. During the day it's fine, but at night
Yeah.
we shouldn't be seeing a lot
No.
of light. So when we talk
Mariel,
about
there's a
doctor sleep, you don't, you want to sleep in a black room.
and the things that we're talking about today, the seven doctors and all of these different techniques, opportunities, practices that have been around for years, centuries. The one thing that I just learned yesterday, I was watching this fascinating documentary on a child in vitro and all that affects the child. When the decisions that you and I make affect our grandchildren,
Yes.
The life of it goes back to the grandparent. So if the grandmother is healthy, the eggs that she's born with, that she maintains when she gives birth to her daughter,
Yep.
and those eggs that she's born with, the grandmothers are, so everything's it's all passing down. Our choices affect not only ourselves and
They
our
ch-
loved ones, it
they
affects our
affect.
children and our grandchildren. And it's fascinating, right?
It
It's
is
fascinating.
fascinating. It's
It's not
affecting.
just about you.
No, and it's affecting generations, but also on the reverse side, you're getting healthy now also helps the generations ahead of you and the
Yep.
generations behind you, right? The
Yep.
generation of growing, like if you get healthy in your brain, right? And you do whatever is necessary for you to find balance, that actually affects your kids, right?
Yes.
It
Yes.
totally affects your kids.
Yep.
Like when you talk about therapy or psychotherapy and stuff like that, when we as human beings unlock our issues or whatever, our genetic issues, that helps unlock the generations before. They often say, there's always one in a family that kind of goes, hey, the buck stops here, I don't want to do this anymore. I kind of feel like I did that a little bit with my family. There was so
Mm-hmm.
much addiction, there was so much mental illness, and I was scared. I spent a lot of years being afraid that I was gonna have it was like a virus. I was just gonna wake up one day and there I'd be, like, not well, mentally not well. And what I realized was, it took me many, many years and lots of falling down and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But what I realized is, oh, wait, I get to make different choices. I know, like I've suffered from depression, I've suffered from anxiety, I've suffered from things, and I know I've figured out my solution. It's unique to me. It's not yours. It's not somebody who has bipolar disorder, but I know what works for me. I know how to prevent depression in myself. Like we were talking about getting light. I know I am a person who needs light. It's like we are in California now, and I'm like, I said to you, I said to my partner, Bobby, I said, we need to find something for the winter months because they're tough on me. Like I
Yep.
figured it out. I have lights in I have crazy lights in every room, but you figure out your solution and it's unique to you. And
Yes.
it's so amazing to know that you actually can change the trajectory of your entire heritage. You can change
Yes.
your family history
You can
moving
you can
forward.
change your genetic expression.
Exactly.
You can't. You're not damned for all times. It's true.
It's so cool. Oh my
It's
gosh.
great.
This has been such a wonderful conversation. I love it. I think we do really well on our own.
Hey,
We're
I think there's a reason that you and I are friends. We
Oh my
got this
God.
thing.
I think it's really good. And we'll get a guest in here, but we just felt like, I don't know, there's a lot that we talk about during the week and that we do and that we just feel is so important to share with other people. It's just so it's fun. It's fun, it's exciting, and I want everyone out there to know that when we come across something, we're going to share it with you. We're going to
Yep.
share with you what the latest and greatest that we're discovering as we move through this world. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us this week. We are so grateful to have you listen to Out Comes the Sun podcast. And if you want to look at our foundation, it's called Mariel Hemingway Foundation.org. Uh, it was really for lack of a better name, and nobody was going to steal it from anybody because it's mine. And also, MH stands for mental health. So do your best to live a simple and present life and have a great week. And we'll see you next week.
Goodbye. Make good choices.